Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode actually. Instead of Agoraphobia today, we'll be looking over the new patch that came out recently. So I've got the patch notes here and we're just going to discuss the changes and how they're going to change the game. I thought I'd do this over Agoraphobia because it's a pretty huge patch, so there's going to be huge changes to the meta. So we'll start with Rampage. It's pretty simple in general what they've done. He was very strong due to his ability to dive backline and just never die, deal a lot of damage with his attack speed scaling, and generally take out the carries by himself, while never dying and having a free get out of jail card. So, his passive, it's weaker early game, in the sense that it now just gives him 4.2 health per second as stated. Usually he had, and that's only in the jungle as well, he had double health regen when basically on 0% HP it scaled. So if he used a health potion when he's on half HP, the health potion had 50% more effect, making it ridiculously more effective, as well as 20% more healing in the jungle. So he was ridiculously strong at this point. But now with this, it will make him a little weaker, but it will give him more consistent regen when jungling, which is the whole idea. He's meant to be a jungler, so when the meta evolves and jungling becomes more viable, then this will be a strong passive. His E got redesigned to a new ability, so he's no longer got a speed up, so he's got less utility for fights. This also means he doesn't get his enhanced leap when in a small form, which we'll talk about when we get to his leap ability, which hasn't actually got any changes. So basically, his leap, he could activate his Feral Roar, he'd leap maximum distance, like ridiculous distance, it was crazy. And he also got this leap when he was in his ult, the enhanced one. But they removed his Feral Roar, so he can't leap further, so he's only got the tiny leap, which gives him no mobility in small form, which makes him a lot less oppressive. He can't just jump on your backline without having his ultimate up. So instead they replaced it with this passive, which just gives him more health regen. Doesn't have to be in the jungle like his passive. This is, as it says, intent is to emphasize him as a regen tank. They don't want him to be this fighter backline killer. They want him to be a tank. They want him to body block, and the regen will help enhance this. If he can take the poke for his allies and he can regen it back up in fights, that's the whole point of him. So this is what that passive is meant to do. You probably won't level it up much. You might keep it level 2, I don't know, you might max it, but I think leveling up the boulder might be a bit better in general, and his leap, because his leap has good damage on it. So in general this is just going to make Rampage a bit weaker over his Feral Roar ability. And then his ultimate is enraged, and it's been modified, so no longer resets the pounce cooldown, so again, his mobility being completely and utterly destroyed from what it was. He could jump in with his Feral Roar into super leap, straight into the backline, hit them a bit. As he got lower, he could always ulti, keep hitting them a bit, and then again, because the pounce cooldowns reset, he could just jump away. Or he could dunk Prime Orb, he could literally grab the orb. He could get close to the pad, like, you know, fair distance for most people to travel, and could probably die in the distance, but he could just leap, ulti, leap again, he'd be on the thing and dunk it, it'd be way too strong. So they had to get rid of that. He also gets rid of the immediate bonus health, so when he gets into his ult, he doesn't just get all his health back, which is ridiculous. It's so much HP, it just, again, get out of jail free card, it happened all the time. So instead, they made it so he just gains a ton of regen. This actually heals more than how much bonus health he gained before, but it's over a period of time, so he can still be burst. But if you're unable to burst him, and he's allowed to get this regen off, he's going to be much tankier, and again, be that frontline tank who can body block, which is what they're designing him to be. Everything else remains the same, so he still gets his damage, and his large hitbox and everything. So in general, Rampage is going to just be a regen tank now that body blocks a lot. That's about it. He's not got his mobility, his backline killing potential anymore, which is probably a good thing, but he will be on the weaker side now. And that actually transitions into Sevarog a bit, because Sevarog, here, he's only had a slight buff, increase in base damage, increased scaling, but then he doesn't gain extra damage from stacking for his ult. But then they've increased, you know, targeting range to better hit enemies offset to left and right, which means it's easier to hit enemies to the side of you, because it's meant to be around him a little bit, rather than just in front of him. And increased activation time, so, you know, he takes a little bit of time to charge it up, but that's not a problem, so there you go. The intent here isn't to increase the probability of hitting enemy while swinging, it's just to make it a little less clunky in general, and give it a bit more base damage, and not need to stack up to make it stronger, which in general makes Sevarog tiny. It's just a tiny buff, he probably needs a bit more, but with the Rampage nerfs he might actually be in contention for a good replacement tank. But then you've got, of course, the main tank that everyone's been using at the moment is Steel. He's by far the best at the moment, and what they did here was absolutely perfect to make him probably one of the most balanced tanks. It's like, you know, these two are weaker tanks and he's a balanced tank. There's no OP tanks in my opinion. you know, every other class sort of deals with them in that sense. So what they did is they shield block, and you can actually level it up now, and in fact you max it over his force shield, because they increase the collision size so he can block shots easier, which is amazing, really good, block grim ults and things and auto attacks for carries and peel for them. Increase the actual armor it gives per level. You'll actually want to level this up now to get the extra armors. That's a lot of armor early on. You pop that up early, you're not dying, it's going to be as good as Rampage's regen, and he becomes more of an armor HP tank rather than a regen tank like Rampage appears to be. Then his force shield, and they got rid of they shortened the casting range, like halved it, which is huge. He can't just launch it out there on top of his allies or zone off enemies, so he'll place it behind them so he can charge them through it or whatever. Now he has to place it quite close, and he gets rid of the shield. So they had that constant resetting shield where you lost the shield, you walk back through it, got the shield, walk back through it, got the shield. Every time you lost it, it's really dumb, so they just got rid of the shields altogether, which is good. And what this overall does really is make him focus a bit more on initiating with his ult and things and being a tank and a front line for his team, rather than being a more support CDR built character that, you know, shields all his allies and keeps big walls up all the time and from at big distances for peeling. So he's a bit more focused on the tanky side rather than the support side, which is what he's supposed to be. So they've generally gone the right direction with these tanks. I think they've done the right thing here. There's only one thing I disagree with in this patch, which we'll go over in a bit, which you probably know what it is if you've looked over it, which you sure have by now. So then, player rating systems added. This is quite nice. What you do is, after the game, you can actually rate people. I don't think it's working properly at the moment. Like, I rated someone, then the next game the same rating appeared on the same person in the same slot as them, so if I rated the 5th person on my team, next time into the next game, I went to rate the person on their team or something, and it was still showing as the 5th person is rated on my team with something. But it allows you to rate them as you know. It's like a report system where you can say they were being rude or anything in game, you can say they were AFK in the game, or you can say they were a good person or they taught me something, so you know, it's like an honour report system in League, in that sense. Surrender vote is now 20 minutes, which, you know, a bit longer than 15, which is like League, and in general it will encourage some longer games. It's probably a good thing so people won't just give up so early, because at 15 minutes the game's definitely not over. As long as your inhibs are up at that point, you've still got a chance. You can always come back. There's plenty of comeback mechanics of harvesters and things now. The new skins, these are all recolors pretty much. I mean, you can have a look at them for yourself, but they're basic recolors for now, and it's understandable why it's still in beta, you know. They're not going to bring out fancy skins, but these are going to be like their tier 1 rubber skins. If you want to see the more impressive skins they've got planned, like the cool Beetle Grux one that we saw and stuff, they're all on their blog that they did for skins. You can go look at that on their main site, epicgames.com. It's their skins are really good. And they'll cost more, of course, but for now they're just doing basic recolors, just so if you want to have a little bit uniqueness in the game, you can purchase the skin. So, Agora added end of match cinematic. So at the end of the game, what the camera does is it zooms in, out from their core, exploding, which is quite cool, and then it zooms over your team by their destroyed core, all doing your taunts, and then they all recall off. It looks pretty cool. It's a really nice way to end a match. It's just fancy, looks cool. That's all it is, not too functional. FX, the Prime Helix Guardian attacks and deaths, so they pretty much, with all these, they just redid a lot of the graphics in the game. In Agora, the game's a lot more visually beautiful, it looks fantastic. It doesn't increase the performance, like, usage at all, really, and some people had some issues on certain, you know, graphics cards and things, but in general, people have had a fine performance, and the game in general has just looked absolutely beautiful, and even the jungle creeps, even though they haven't actually done the jungle models yet, they're still minions, they updated the textures, and HD textures make a big difference in this. With the harvester change here, increase CP steal amount. So usually when you hit a harvester, you got 25% of the CP out of it, and it's just for yourself, but now you get 100%. This is huge for the meta, because you'll have to when you're counter jungling things, you have to hit the harvesters a lot. If their harvester's full, just empty it, because you'll get the 300 CXP, so you're effectively getting rid of 1,500 from their team, because it shares between them, and getting 300 for yourself, which makes it much more worthwhile just for hitting the harvesters, let alone killing them, because it's hard to kill them early. And harvesters no longer provide vision, so they can't see you hitting them unless they place a ward on them, so they'll just see the health go down as you hit it, and they won't see who's actually hitting it, and it could be multiple people, so they might not go or whatever, or you can use it as a bait or something, so there's lots of different ways that could be abused. And in general, when you walk past certain areas, you know, harvesters aren't going to spot you out, so that's a pretty big change, and implores counter jungling and things. The weekly pack is Overflowing Gifts but without Necroveil. Overflowing Gifts gives, as you see, a bit of mana regen, but it has a active which gives everyone essentially almost a health pot worth of HP regen over some time and has quite a big cooldown. It's good for Muriel supports in general. You can use it to just regen your team in the middle of fights. Bubble Tap is for more of Gideon. He jumps in, activates it, gives a big shield. It's like 75% of your current mana and uses 100 mana to actually use the active. Energy Armor Life, so as you can see there, 6 cost, good Gideon item. Necroveil, pretty useless at the moment. When you kill someone, it gives you like 3 seconds in the shadow plane, which is stealth essentially, which isn't very useful on any corruption character at the moment. I mean, the only character who even uses energy damage in the corruption really is Grim and Gideon, and they're not going to use it really. So I don't see it as that useful really. And of course, Kalari wouldn't want to use it. She's got her own stealth and she's physical, so yeah, pretty bad card in general. But that's the weekly pack. It's worth picking up if you don't have the cards, because you never know, Necroveil might come useful at some point. These two are definitely useful. Always worth picking up for 15,000 for the guaranteed cards that you don't have. Added a filter to exclude. Yes, this is huge. So this, in the deck builder, allows you to exclude certain cards with specific stats, which is really handy when building your deck for a specific character. They've also added stat recommendations, which is great for new people. So if you're new into the game, you'll know not to build energy damage on a physical damage character, because it'll have a big red diamond on it to say, don't do that. And by default, they're actually excluded, so you know you can include them, but they're default excluded, which is really good. It's going to help new people out. This is the change I do disagree with. Now, one of these should have happened, but not both, basically. So crit damage went from 200% to 150. I thought that was the good change. I saw that, and I was quite happy. I was like, that's a good way to balance crit out a bit. You know, they can get up to 70% crit, but, you know, it's going to be 50% less damage. It's going to be a bit more consistent, but it's not going to hit so hard in general, which is how it should have been, really. And even then, maybe only lower it by 25%, you know. And make the crit bonus items give, you know, maybe 30% or something. I don't know, something like that. Just make it a bit weaker, but not ridiculous. But, I mean, that was a fine change when I saw it. But then I saw this one, which crit card percentage value, 4% per card point, rather than 3%, 3% now rather than 4% rather, so that means it's gone down by 1%, so every 1 card point you had is now a quarter less efficient, so 25% less efficiency, so you're going to have to buy essentially, you know, an extra quarter of what you did before on top, so 1.25 how many card points you spend on crit chance, and then the crit damage bonus is lowered, so it's even less valuable. So in a full crit build now, you'll have about 200 less DPS than a full attack speed power build with a bit of pen. So in general, crit builds have been made a hell of a lot weaker. You can probably put about 20 and get away with it on certain characters. This has destroyed Sparrow because she relied so heavily on crit with Bright Steel Plate offensive maneuvers and all that stuff, and it's just made generally crit pretty bad. People are still using it a little bit, but you're almost always better off going for a flat-out DPS build in terms of numbers. Late game you might get a similar DPS, or maybe slightly higher, like a 5% increase to a flat DPS build, but you're sacrificing a huge early game for that, and even then you've got to get the crits. It's still chance-based, you might only have 40% crit. It's generally not worth it, so I think crit's been nerfed maybe a bit too hard here. I think they should have just kept this the same and just nerf the crit damage, or at least just do one at a time and see how either of them affect. You know, it is beta, so they can test these things. Hopefully it gets buffed again a bit in the future. But moving on, HUD and UI, added first tips to new players. This is really nice. With your first few games, you'll see these pop up. I think they're a bit intrusive on the UI when you're going around, but I guess they want people to see them. So, I mean, I think it's fine they only show up for the first time you do something like standing on a harvest stage, you can see there. So, they just give little hints. They're really useful for new players, and I think it's a really good thing that they added them. Hopefully, they give an option just to turn them off by default, but I think they just don't come back after you've done it once, so I haven't had an issue with it since then. Just a fix there, players can toggle timestamps are always nice, but yeah, that's just fixes. Performance, yeah, again, as I said, the patch hasn't affected performance too much. They said they made render adjustments on low settings. I mean, I play on high, so I don't know, but if people play on low, apparently you're going to have improved performance, that's always good. Added ambient noise, all the audio is amazing. They added a better music track as well. When you start up the game, it's literally epic, it's fantastic, so you're going to really like that, and when you get into game, in general, all the sound's been improved like the visuals have. So, tooltip updates on heroes, great. Hero recommended stats, good. Bot heroes no longer waste their AoE abilities on single minion targets, so, you know, little bot things. Animations being fixed, animation updates and polish for Gadget and Decker, so they're both fine. Grim, this was quite funny, so if you didn't know, if you've ever played bot games, you saw Grim.exe inside a bot game and you played against him, or played with him, he always bought Blade of Agora and damage, like Amulet of the Veteran and stuff, and, you know, the physical damage doesn't affect energy damage characters, so it was just pointless and it was rubbish. They actually said they fixed this last patch, but they didn't. He didn't buy energy items again, so he's still buying the rubbishy build. That's the wrong deck. But now I think he is correctly using it. I've seen it recently. And just again, more fixes to bots there, and that was a nice little fix there, fixing deflector shield still displaying after you, so if you used it and it actually blocked something, then it would still show up, which is really annoying. It looked like you had a permanent shield on, it's just got in your way. The black hole, so that damage now starts exactly when he gets the shield. It hasn't reduced the damage at all, it just means the damage is slightly delayed, so it's more of it's at the end as well, you know, it's just shifted the time which the damage starts and ends a bit more forward, so when he actually gets the shield, because it makes a little more sense. And then shields can now stack with other shields applied by allies or cards. This is huge. It means Miro can literally shield Gideon when he's black holing now, which is amazing, so he can actually tank more. And, you know, bubble tap's going to be valuable anyway when you jump in bubble tap and ult, or, you know, jump in shockwave, bubble tap, ult, etc., things like that. But now Miro can shield and make him a bit more tanky when he's ulting, which is good. Fixed a bug, ability wouldn't show damage on structures, it was doing damage, but yeah, it's pretty simple. Upgraded starter decks to include a fighter deck, probably pretty irrelevant to most people, maybe for new people, but I don't think you should build her as a fighter anyway. Kalari, too weak in that sense, need to build her full damage. If you're going to play her, I wouldn't play her at all. According to most people, she's absolutely terrible. I still like her though. Murdoch corrected static trap, so that's just visual effects being fixed, that's simple. Mana costs for some more fixes there, bug fixes here, and then known issues, which we won't need to go over. They're pretty simple. So that's the most recent patch. It's pretty huge in terms of meta shifting, because of the crit changes, the biggest one. Makes carries a bit weaker in a sense, and makes fighters stronger, so Feng Mao and Grux are a bit more in the meta now. Makes tanks a bit more relevant, because they have ways to just get around the whole ridiculous amount of damage that carries do, because this crit was ridiculously strong, it was just better. But yeah, now it's a bit weaker, so makes tanks a bit more viable, casters a bit more viable. You might run double caster comps now, you know, you might even only run one carry comps, maximum two really. I would never run a triple carry comp now. But yeah, so overview, Rampage is now a regen tank, Sevarog is a little stronger, but may take the place of sort of Rampages in a sense. Still got most of his power shifted from his force shield to his shield block. You actually should max the shield block now and keep force shield at level 2, upgrade your autos instead. Nice colour skins, you know, general performance increases, the harvester changes, the game looks visually better, the different weekly pack, the crit changes, and all the new player stuff. So overall, really good patch, very big patch, and it's going to change the game a lot. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can like and favourite, and subscribe if you want to watch more. Tomorrow I'm going to be starting a new series where I will watch other people's replays, like games, and I will tell them how they can improve and analyse the game from within, and of course pop it here for everyone to see. So you can see how that goes, and I'll see you then, I guess. So thank you so much for watching.